Is Ben Jealous, the president of People for the American Way, PFAW.org, the website, visiting scholar at the Annenberg School at Penn, former president of the NAACP, former candidate for governor of Maryland, and Ben Jealous is his Twitter handle. Ben, welcome back to the program. I'm curious what I know that you're tracking a whole bunch of stuff at PFAW and you yourself as well. I'm curious your thoughts on these police who keep falsifying police reports, covering up murders, calling them medical distress, lying about what's on the body cams, and then entire police departments, like we're seeing with the Louisiana State Police for 2 years, covering up what certainly appears to me to be a murder of an unarmed black man by a bunch of white cops. What's going on with this?
Well, we have had a sick culture in our police departments for a very long time, and it's been aided and abetted by a lie that most officers. The reality is, when you were young, you can't be good.
Ben, your phone is going in and out really badly, and it also kind of sounds like maybe we're on speaker. I don't know if you could pick up the phone.
We're not on speaker. Can you hear me now, Tom?
Yeah, it sounds much better now. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So yeah, what I was saying is this all goes back to first principles, what your mom taught you when you were a kid, which is you can't be good if you're protecting your friends who are doing bad.
Right.
In the law, we call that being an accessory after the fact. And the simple fact is that while only about 10% of the officers are doing bad things in the country, about 80% are willing to protect them by staying silent. There is a no snitching culture amongst the cops. And we have to break that. And it's the unions that enforce it. So what you see in Louisiana is a murder. And every single officer who knew about it and didn't tell is an accessory to murder after the fact. Those officers need to be prosecuted from top to bottom, to send a message to every officer in this country that if you murder somebody, we're coming for you. And if you protect an officer who murders somebody, you're going to prison too.
I completely agree with that sentiment, and in fact, I would think it should go as high as those videos ever went. If it went all the way up to the Attorney General's office, that person should be prosecuted as well. I'm totally with you on all that. Do you see any evidence that the state of Louisiana is thinking like that?
Well, I think history would suggest probably not. That's when it comes into the federal government. That's when it comes up, frankly, to popular demand. When you look at the reforming of the police over centuries in our country, it's always come from the bottom up. The last major crisis to be successfully dealt with, if you will, was the problem of lynching in this country. Federal legislation failed. State legislation, a little more complex, but ultimately failed. What succeeded were local leaders organizing local campaigns, saying to local politicians, you won't get through the primary, or you won't get through the general, or we will primary you, or we will just simply run something better against you if you don't get with the program and get this lynching problem under control. It's the same tactic that has to be used right now. It's what we're focused on, the People for the American Way, in supporting local candidates, and the work that we do is to make sure that ultimately the civil rights community's values are sort of mainstreamed into local politics, and people understand that you can't both remain mayor and cover up the murder of a civilian by the police.
At the same time, we're hearing stories about how not just the Republican Party, although there is money coming out of the Republican Party, but also massive amounts of money coming out of the Koch network and some of these other right-wing billionaire networks to fund candidates for school boards all around the country to make sure that black history doesn't get taught, or the genocide of Native Americans doesn't get taught. And to go after, in particular trans Americans, but in general the spectrum of LGBTQ folks. We're hearing about the way that states are being basically rigged and way beyond gerrymandering, but obviously that's a big piece of it, so that regardless of how the people vote, and now we're seeing this with these new voter suppression laws that have been put into place in 4 states now, where the Republicans are saying it doesn't, after the vote is done here in Georgia, we're going to take a look at that vote in Fulton County where all those black people live, and we'll just decide how many of those votes we're going to count and how many we're not going to vote, how many we're not going to count. We're going to decide what's a good ballot and what's a spoiled ballot. Yeah. I mean, that's the insanity that's happening right now. If they can do that to our vote and they can kill us with their, I mean, where do we start with all this?
Well, you know, again, we have to go back to first principles. When it comes to our democracy and the voter suppression legislation that's happening to facilitate what you're talking about in places like Georgia, right? More than 300 bills, more than 40 states. The only way to really deal with it ultimately is effective federal legislation. We got to pass the For the People Act. We got to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Frankly, while we're at it, we should also make D.C. a state. But certainly H.R. 1, H.R. 4 have to get passed right away because of the crisis happening in more
which means ends the filibuster.
Country. And that means we have to end the filibuster. And that means, honestly, that we have to put maximum pressure on Biden and on Schumer to put maximum pressure on Manchin and Sinema. You know, it's easy for all of us to feel pretty powerless if it comes down to two senators from small states. We need to remember just how politics works in Washington. Ultimately, the two people who have the greatest power to put pressure on two senators is the majority leader of their party, Chuck Schumer, and the president of the United States. All of our pressure should be, if we're not in Arizona, if we're not in West Virginia, most of us aren't, should be directed on the president and Mr. Schumer to make sure that they put maximum pressure and actually get the results that we need.
I'm completely with you, and I've been singing this song for a while now, and suggesting that if people want to contact Schumer, 202-224-3121 gets you the congressional switchboard, and you can ask for his office, and they'll connect you directly. You can also ask for your own two senators, and regardless of what party they may be, let them know your opinions on this. And the best way to contact the White House, apparently the comment line is spotty at best, is by going to whitehouse.gov. They've got a /contact. They've got a contact thing where you can fill it out and send it back. Does People for the American Way have tools to lean on these people? And do you know of better ways than the two that I just mentioned to put pressure on Schumer and President Biden?
No, what you said is exactly spot on. We actually just sent a congressional directory to all of our million-plus members, like a physical one, because there's a lot of work each of us needs to do to make sure that our voice is heard. We at people can sign up at pfaw.org. Just give us your email, get engaged with. You're a member with us if you just take an action with us a year. It doesn't need to pay money, although we do really, frankly, build this movement off of everyday folks giving $20, $30. But the best thing right now we can do is to put pressure on Schumer, put pressure on President Biden to end the filibuster, and giving them a call the way that you suggested is exactly the perfect way to do it.
Yeah. Ben, we have 45 seconds. I know that you've got a lot on your plate. What are the other issues that People for the American Way is working on that you'd like to highlight right now?
Well, it's really these two issues. Public safety and democracy are our two big issues. The main thing that we are urging people to do in their communities when it comes to public safety, which we opened up about, is to push your city to do what Ithaca is doing, which is to actually put a civilian over public safety and then split the department into two divisions, one that is a uniformed armed division and one that is an ununiformed, unarmed set of first responder social workers to deal with that half of police work that's actually social work.
That's brilliant, and it's also kind of in line with the founders' idea of putting civilians in charge of the military. I mean, it's like this is not rocket science. It's not brand new. It's Ben Jealous, the president of People for the American Way, pfaw.org.